Hey, 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 I'm back with another video finally. I'm sorry it's been so long. This past few weeks from the out of country trip to London and getting back has just been kind of, I don't know, it's just been all over the place. And I'll get home at night and I'm just kind of like, and distracted by like a lot of other things and blah, blah, blah. Just want to say sorry it's been so long. I'm trying to work on a more consistent method and just get to a point where I'm doing videos every day, if every other day being the biggest leg. And what I'm going to try to probably do tonight is maybe make a couple of them and just get back into the swing of things. Now, this video, I'm going to try to keep this pretty tight, is a response to 3 questions that I've received. Now, as you can see here on the screen, oh, is it like playing too along the way? Well, yeah, sure. We'll let it play along. Why not? Give you something to look at. So this is a video of mine entitled Patrick Little, Kneelism Revisited and the Failure of White Nationalism 1.0 and the Alt-Right on the Blacks, in air quotes. So I received some comments here that were interesting that I wanted to address and answer for a bit. That's May 24th. Oh my gosh, I'm such a bad person. I'm sorry. Like, there's just 1,000 things I want to talk about, but again, anyway, these are comments here from this video. And the first one, so the first 2 questions, I said there's 3 in this title. So the last one, well, actually, maybe I should start with the Twitter one first. I'm not going to pull it up I'm just going to read it from my phone just because it's a little bit easier. So this one is actually from Christoph Dallas. We've been Twitter friends for quite some time, and he popped into one of my videos before when I had the stream on, and so we're Twitter friends, and he sent me this DM and asked me, so what attracts you to the cause of white people's rights, interests, and the recognition of them / us as actual human beings? So, and I told him that I wanted to address this with 2 other comments because there's a little bit of overlap here, and I can kind of just um, collapse it into one video. So, starting there, so what attracts you to the cause of white people's rights, interest in the recognition of them, us as actual human beings? Well, I guess you see the long and the short of it is, it's just a simple. I think so. I guess then this kind of plays like, and also as I was typing this out a few minutes ago, when I add the little sub, my own origin story. I mean, I guess I've always just noticed things from being even just a young person about the way race was handled and just kind of the way that I feel like I'm not answering this. It's like I want to say like 15 things, but it's really simple. It's just because well, I guess Ramsey Paul, he's been doing a really good job of just solidifying, everyone should have a homeland. All people should be proud of who they are, their race. It's basically equal opportunity for everyone. Like, we can't have this very blatant double standard hypocrisy where everyone is allowed to feel good and love themselves and love their kind, except for whites, and then even more particularly, the white heterosexual male is the one always the kind of odd man out and being able to say those things. So just in short, I think I've always been, or for at least for quite a long time, been aware of that double standard, and I don't like it. And there's been a lot of things in my life personally where people have treated me a certain way or been duplicitous towards me and were okay with certain people doing some things when I did them, I wasn't able to do them. So and then I guess if I could really start to locate it as a younger kid, well, this happens, and it happens in a couple of stages. And I'm really trying to think about this more as I debate. I think I want to write a book. I know, like every other fucker out there, I want to write a book. But no, I'm trying to organize these thoughts because I think what I would like to do is just a memoir, a really short one, not even like a full life memoir, but just me and a lot of these race questions and a lot of these like really instances in my life where I started to think about race and racial identity and whites and blacks and all that stuff. Let me take a sip. tonight's wine of choice is this really great. It's called Raymond Hill. Is that what it is? It's like this big bottle from Trader Joe's. It's like $8. It's a really good Chardonnay for the price, and it's really tasty and good. So that's on deck now. I got a big bottle of that. That's in the fridge. I also picked up about a $4 bottle of Frontera's Malbec. I picked up another one too. I drank that. See, maybe that excuse why I didn't do video last night. I'll be honest. So I came home, started like fiddling around with normal house stuff, and I drank a whole bottle of wine. And then I woke up at 8 o'clock, and I was like, shit. Oh, so bad. Anyway, sorry for the divergence. Had to go plug my Trader Joe's wine. There you go. Speaking of Trader Joe's, this should be a completely separate video, but here's a quick tangent. I was there like a week ago, and I was picking out some wines. Um, and I see this black woman there. She's just buying wine, and then I see this little kid run up behind her. It's like weird. She looks just like Crystal Kierson's little girl, really curly hair, a little sandy colored hair girl, and she was buying wine. I did see if she was married or not. I was just like, oh, especially I'm like in a suburb, where there's not a lot of black people to begin with. So then to run into like be shopping for wine, the same little side store aisle with a black woman with a mixed kid was just kind of like one of those, didn't expect that today. Yeah. So that's my so now I'm done explaining Trader Joe's shopping. How about I get back on the subject? I'm rusty, guys. You gotta bear with me on this one. Anyway. Chardonnay. Chardonnay, hey. Okay. So so the late 90s for me, it was like the music. Like I kind of like locate that as like the last part I really consciously just remember is kind of just being like a more average, ordinary young black child, you know. And then the Goo Goo Dolls, Dizzy Up the Girl. I love that album. And I loved all the big singles. And I remember because I was in middle school and I went to like a really heavy black middle school. And then there was this fight. My friend got jumped, and her friend started jumping on me. I got expelled from that school, and I had to finish the remainder of 8th grade at a school that was a little more mixed. I think it was, yeah, it was a little bit more mixed. And one of our friends there, she was white, white working class kid. She had that album, and she like loaned it to me or something. And I think I kept it for a while. I don't know if I ever gave it back to her. I don't know. Certainly don't have it today. And I just fell in love with that. Then it was like, I'm dating myself in that era. Like then it was John Mayer and and I really have a soft spot for a lot of, like, it's weird for me, the 90s. I have a soft spot for a lot of the R&B that I really loved that time. Like I can't really just think of all the bands like Jade, Tevin Campbell, all those like really great 3-foursome like black R&B hip hoppy kind of groups and stuff. Jodeci, I loved Jodeci. I loved Jodeci when I was a kid. Woo! But then that was kind of the beginning of the 90s, the midpoint for me. But then by the late 90s, like that, I think so. So what made me? So I've been asking myself this. So like it's funny Christoph asked that because I've been, like I said, I've been thinking about these questions and I'm trying to sort them out in my own head. So now being just a little bit past 30, it's like it does make it easier in some ways to kind of look back a full decade ago, and I can kind of like find these markers like, okay, that's when I started to become more like this or more into that. But I mean, but then I have to say that too. So it's weird. This is one of the big things I would like to in this question, whites and white interests. There's one thing I really want to say, but I'm going to save it for the book or save it for a more well-formed video. Maybe if I do write this within the next few months, I'll do some teaser videos because it's a really cool thing, I think. It is kind of sultry and interesting. So I'm going to save that one. But let me find the second point that I think would help explain this. Well, it's a tangent. So movies. I grew up watching a lot of movies and TV like alone. Like my mom started working like the mid and late 90s for the post office. And so that so by middle of elementary school, I started going home, alone, had a key, latch key kind of kid, whatever. But, we grew up a lot of movies. And my mom has a lot of like just 80s, 90s, like white movies. Like for instance, so when Christoph asked about white people, white interests, some of the things I think even growing up in a very heavily black area, north side of Milwaukee, I don't think the only white people I really knew, like that girl, Melinda, who gave me the Goo Goo Dolls CD. She was a friend She's like probably the first white person I was ever friends with, and I was probably already 14 years old. I mean, a few randomly. There was this white girl in my daycare. But I mean, so I spent time getting to know white people and white interests in a very strange kind of way through movies and TV, and just kind of from this distance. So watching a lot of TV and movies on my own, after school, I would we had old VHS player, and so I'd put in like, okay, the one movie I can think of, it came on a couple days ago, and I was like, oh my god, I was at a bar. I remember I stopped there with my mom. We got back. It was this place in Chicago. We stopped for a bite to eat. It was playing Working Girl with Melanie Griffith, Harrison Ford, and Sigourney Weaver. It's like from the late 80s, and I really love that movie. And I used to watch it over and over again. So my mom still has that same VHS tape. And I really identify with Tess. She's this kind of working class girl from I think she was from Long Island or Staten Island, and she gets this big job in Manhattan, secretary for this kind of waspy, Sigourney Weaver, whatever. And I don't want to go into the whole plot too much, but so that's so I can kind of locate watching white people in movies and TV shows. And so people talk about blacks that grow up, just learning how to hate whitey. It's weird because it's so strange. I'm still trying to figure this out myself. So you get that messaging as a young black person, young black child in a lot of areas of life. I mean, because there's also black people that I grew up in a majority white suburb. I didn't grow up with these ideas. I mean, so a very black person. So I'm very much painting a wide stroke here when I say this, but so there was so that kind of oh, white people be like this, they racist, they that. Yeah, there's that, but but at the same time, so I think one of the subtle things that makes me today, and the kind of pro-white, pro-Western, I guess I'll be a proud boy right here. I'm a Western chauvinist, supportive of whites, because I was able to. So this is the kicker: watching Hollywood movies and TV shows about whites in a way kind of gave me an introduction to white people, in the sense that I was able to have this kind of. Now it's strange and it's complicated because of the fictional movies and TV shows, and I think that's one of the big heartbreaks in my life that I would love to talk about one day, is because I grew up black, poor, and in the inner city. A lot of these, so in a part of some ways that I kind of mythologize. Is that a word, mythologize? I don't think that's a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. I don't want to lose the point. Mythologizing white people and kind of elevating them on a pedestal in a sense, it was reinforced by a lot of this blackness where it's just white people. I didn't understand class. I didn't understand money. I didn't understand. I mean, subtly over time, I started to understand those things, but I would say it really took most of my teen years through college and a lot of experiences that I ended up having, particularly when I went to a majority white private university in the Midwest, where I hadn't really understood that. I thought if I just did 5 or 6 things more like white people, not accounting for my own class background, not accounting for my own personal, family structure, all in all, so Hollywood movies and TV shows, I got to see white people in this kind of case study from a distance, and rewatch movies, and kind of I remember kind of thinking over time, a lot of ways I learned how to deal with people and talk with people. I learned from situations in movies of watching whites interact with each other. So there was never this scary ooga booga white people thing. There is that in parts of my life, being a poor black girl at that time, now a woman, in the way I was raised, the environment I grew up in. But I was also watching movies and TV shows, and my mom, it's funny, my mom reads romance novels, Danielle Steele, all that type of stuff. It's weird. I've never read one, but I grew up with those. So the covers, some Fabio looking dude to some white woman, this corsety dress or boobies all pushed up. So so it's I had, and then a lot of PBS as a kid. My mom likes the British shows. I was never really into them that much, but I watched Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, and then we never had cable growing up. So I would watch what I would watch on PBS. So you get a lot of other more white TV shows and entertainment there too. So let me kind of come back to the original question again. So what attracted me to whites is it's always just been there. And it's changed, like I said before, as a kid, it's one thing to watch TVs and shows and watch movies, but because I didn't have enough one-on-one experience with white people in a personal sense until I was considerably older. And then from there, like, this is why sometimes, like, I kind of reference, like, Jim Goes to Redneck Manifesto, because I think the book really, it does a lot of things well, but one thing I think it really, really focuses in on really well and just enhances the idea of class amongst whites, because that's a big thing that I didn't understand, because black people just kind of like see white people like these magical beings. They all got money, or like we see it in crime too, like, white people target certain areas, target certain whites, assumption they have money, they must be rich. We keep talking about white supremacy, the white inherited wealth. Had a conversation with a white male friend of mine who was in his 50s, and he was saying that. And so anyway, so I didn't get a lived experience of actually interacting with white people until I was probably, like, even the friend in 8th grade, we were friends, but like I would say high school is when I actually started to form friendships with white people, boys and girls, that, and some of them who are a very good handful of whom I'm still friends today. Actually, the wedding I went to in London was actually from probably my best white girlfriend from high school. So that's when I started actually building personal one-on-one relations with white people in a personal sense. So it's really tricky, but I could go a lot of different directions there. But I think I'll just again say the original question was, what attracts you to the cause of white people's interest in the recognition of them / us as actual human beings? It's always been there. First, it was from a distance, and I just didn't have this fear factor that so many black people kind of get about whites, like, beat into me, or it was there, and then there are times that's happened. I can tell you a few stories about, like, when I first started to kind of branch out and in high school, and I wanted to, like, go to sleepovers in the suburbs, which I did, and go do stuff, and some of the blowback, from some of my family members, like, oh, you used to hang out with white folks, some really nasty experiences there. But I could talk about that another day. But so I'm just attracted to what's right and what's fair. Is every white person a superhero? No. Is every white person magical? No. I mean, a lot of it's, especially now, we see in the current year just how toxic the situation's become, where everything that's white, you're some neo-Nazi who wants to gas 6 million Jews and lynch 8 million Hindus. I'm attracted to just, I mean, not like I'm some like moral saint or something, or like I'm always about the side of what's fair and what's good. Yeah, I say that with, like, some reservation, because it just sounds kind of hokey, but I guess that's the only way I can really kind of verbalize that right now. So anywho, let's move into the comments here on video. Now, this is from the first one. Well, yeah, let's start in St. Herman. So the funny thing backstory about St. Herman, as you can see here in what I'm saying, is, yeah, he's Egypt Ann. I don't have a video of hers right at hand in my mention. I know a few videos ago I referenced her and something she was talking about. But she's a black woman. She's kind of like from the black woman sector that I kind of like, run around in. And she's been on and off YouTube getting flagged. She's always like in some kind of like, thing, her like Minister Jap and a lot of those guys coming after her, blah, blah, blah. So in St. Herman, you should always show up in the comment. There's this spell of time. He watches a fair amount of her videos, and he like comment, and he starts talking like this alt-right, like, it's so weird. So I'd be like, in this song, I always keep saying, like, it's so weird being in these two communities where these two separate discussions about everything are happening. And then, so I usually feel like the bridge on one side or the other, but then to have someone kind of come, it'd be like if I can think of if a certain black woman commenter, like from either Kendall or Simone or Virgo Sun or Annex, I started seeing them like on a Luke Ford stream, like, he's like, whoa, you're over here, what's up? Like, so it doesn't happen that much. And but anyway, he's like over there trying, like, I think if if you hear this saying, I want to have you on, like, anybody can use a voice modulator. I probably should have thought of that earlier on, but I don't care. Like, you can use a voice modulator, whatever you want to do. Don't come on camera, none of that. Some of you guys I just want to talk to, be like, hey, what's up? Like, it's so different hearing, like, how did you get here? Anyway, so you say Herman and I go way back. I'm like, yeah, I remember you from Egypt An's channel. Like, yeah. And I think it's like some of the black women just kind of got pissy with him. Like, a few people liked his comments, and he have some good conversations, but then a few people get kind of pissy, especially if you start talking about the Jews, like, because there's it's like you can see Yvette Carnell here in the recommendations. I was listening to some of her stream tonight when I was driving home. Um, well, it's like this default response that some black people have. We start talking about 6 million, like this, black women in their capes. You know how we like to cape for everybody but ourselves, and so like I think that put people off. But it was weird. There were sometimes his comments would land well, and there'd be some engagement, and I'd engage. So I saw him like in Luke Forestry. I'm like, oh my god, it's Insane Hermit. So anywho, this is Insane Hermit's question. Were you ever on Egypt Ann's channel? I spent a lot of time there trying to convert black women to the alt right. Also, why do you think the window for the alt? Do you think the alt? Why do you think the alt window for alt right converting black women has closed? Hmm. Okay, so the first part, yeah, like I didn't. So that was your MO the whole time. Very interesting. It's funny. The more I think about it, and I have to maybe just make a point by point video to just explain why I think just playing both sides of why the alt right would be beneficial or the general dissident right. Again, I keep saying like it's because the name is stuck for better or for worse, and it just gives people automatic go. So I'm torn on using it because I don't know, but yeah, sorry. So you notice how I keep trying to always pad it with dissident right because I like dissident right. I think that really sticks, and I think it has a little bit more bearing, a little more weight. But anyway, so converting them to the alt right, yeah. I think the window? Why do I think the window is closed? I don't think it has. I think overall, I think the best response I can give to that question directly is I think what I've always kind of said for the past maybe 2 years is I've like especially when Brooklyn Blue came out of the darkness before she went back into darkness and when she came and she started coming to YouTube and dropping like she put like 30 40 videos or so of just she changed the game. And still side tangent, so funny with this Cynthia G thing. I called this like a couple months ago. I was like, it's coming. Basically watching all the conversation amongst black women has changed. Now granted, again, which we don't do enough as black women, we don't pay tribute to women who came before us. We put on a cape for black men all day, but we don't do the same for other black women. Now before Kendall, Evia, Halima, Khadijah, those women, really blazed a trail over a decade ago too. So she's not the first to come forward with this knowledge and this perspective. But so there's basically been a decade of black women having these discussions, and social media has opened it up, and a lot of the communication has helped. Now, I think what's happened with the alt right and with this kind of general BWE, black women, WGTOW kind of scene is inadvertently they're moving in similar directions. And even though the alt-right dissident right is is predominantly white and male, but obviously there are white women and even some other non-whites and Jews who kind of float in that sphere. But overall, let's just for sake of the argument say that it's about 50%, let's say about 80% white and male. But then you come over to our side, it's mostly, I would say, probably 95% black women. And there's a few, like Amiri Brown, the great liberators and success he's been having after, especially after being featured with Cynthia G and her kind of finding his work, what the conversation is changing there at that level. I just think it's like they're moving in the same direction. Like the slavery question has finally got who was at the gate has opened up black women to have an honest look back at history, look at our place in it, our relationship with black men, black motherhood, black children, how we got here, how sub-Saharan Africa, everything basically from the year zero to the diaspora. For those of us who fall here in the States, people in South America. So now that the questions have been answered and black women are being able to honestly address these things and not just keep regurgitating the same, evil white man roots narrative of black history, they're ending up in a lot of race realist, even some human biodiversity type questions that you find very much on the alt-right, particularly when you get to the more race realist human biodiversity strains of it. And so I don't even know if a conversion is necessarily needed. Now, because we're not all because then one of the key things is if you have a group of people, particularly more on the alt-right, saying no race mixing, whites with whites, it's weird. So we're moving in these some similar thought patterns, but the methods and the end games are different. Because the black women on the side that I kind of roll around, where we're saying we don't want to marry black men, we don't want to have or date, marry, or reproduce with black men. We prefer to do that with some other brother. Now, half the time the conversation is basically saying white men, but then obviously there's the Asian question, the Hispanic guys, the Indian guys, whatever. So that's one place where we're moving in tandem, but our movement kind of steers us in one direction that we don't end up in the same place. Um, kind of lost my thought. I just think, well, it's hard because one of the things just came to my mind in regards to that question from Insane Herman is what I'm noticing. The too much of the distant alt right, and like I've tried to suggest before, carries a lot of baggage that a lot of white people have, and particularly as we as black women in these circles have kind of come to the conclusion that when people say black issues and stuff, they really just mean black men. And the alt right and dissident right is just equally guilty of this because there's always a search for some base black guy or this willingness to kind of just buy into. Well, because the key things is, you hear the black men going about feminism. Now you have a lot of white men, the alt right, distant right, who kind of are either loosely associated with, in some cases, if not integrated with the kind of MGTOW red pill guy thing, where it's the feminism and white women race mixing with black men has created all this downfall. And there's this desire to really believe that, and to just kind of, like I made this comment, I think with Dennis Dale or somebody else I was just talking to, where I was like, well, yeah, because you guys keep trying to draw this through line to what's happening in the black community and black families with your own, but it's not the same story. And so it's weird. Like, I don't think it's not about converting. I don't know. I don't think the window's closed, but I think the thing is they just gonna have to speak. There's a couple things they're gonna have to give up and have to unlearn that blackness is just black men and black women are just like there. We're just we're just a non-entity and non-thought. So if the dissident right, alt right, especially with the kind of black women in the conversations that we're having, that can be beneficial to them. Like we have some intel that we can share, and I advise anyone that's in this alt right or anybody kind of from the Lucas sphere, anybody that's in on this channel of mine, I should just maybe make a recommendation video. Like I mentioned some names. Go find Shady Egypt Band. Go over to Virgo Sun channel. Go listen in. Don't have to participate because you don't have to jump in. Just lurk and listen, but you have to start listening to where the conversation amongst black women has moved to. You're gonna have to unlearn the welfare destroys the black family lie because it's not true. You're gonna have to unlearn the feminism, the black community's a patriarchy thing, also not true. And I just think that has to happen first. And that's kind of even why in a certain way I've kind of offered myself up in a lot of these different circles, particularly the dissident right, to be kind of hopefully a bridge black woman to these thoughts. So, but it's challenging for me because like I run into this like when when I show up like a Luke stream or someone stream, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm trying to be. So I'm representing a black voice just as a racial group, but then I'm a black woman, and then beyond that, I'm bringing a viewpoint that publicly only a small contingent of black women are actually voicing. And so there's always this kind of tightrope between making sure I want to be representative of a certain outlook, but just by doing that, I'm challenging a narrative that's been so deeply set in, and I can't be the only voice doing this. So it's weird. I think there just needs to be more conversation between both parties. I think if you're a dissident alt-writer, you should check out some of these black women channels that kind of probably come up alongside me, like Shady Egypt Band, Simone 56, Crystalline Cares, and Beyond Black and White channel. Like, yeah, she's a brand ambassador for interracial dating site, and that's the beginning point of most of her work and her brand. But particularly as she's gone through her slings and arrows over the past few years, and then her teaming up with Kendall St. Charles / Brooklyn Blue, a lot of the viewpoints and things that she talks about have changed, and she has great content to offer. And she's been here for some time. I can't remember Annex. I think she took down all her old like more race related videos. Um, but she's a good channel. She's especially as a black woman in her 60s, who has a lot to offer, and it's a great perspective to get from someone that's a little bit older than most of us, like only be our moms, and someone could talk about the 60s and 70s because she was there, she was a kid. So I don't think the window is closed. I think there's really just an opening. Is like as we even see, like I said, the Cynthia G thing is crazy. Like she and even Chrissy to a certain extent, because with the mess of things, yeah, because they all basically ripping off Kendall St. Charles and a lot of what she brought forth. So a year or two ago, they were all like, "Oh, these swirlers, these divesting black women," but now she's kind of assumed that mantle because she's run into the same. It's like watching people who are 2 years behind you in like a timeline, and they're hitting the same knowledge we hit. And like there was some Facebook thread that I was on, and someone's like, "Oh well, I don't think sucking white dick is gonna get us anywhere." And it was weird because it's like, well, the funny thing is, you don't have to swirl. It's not. There's this really great commenter, Brianna Nouveau. She's amazing. I want to see if she'd ever come on and just do a stream with me. I just want to talk to her. She's so sharp. And the problem, she's like, black women have an image issue. And part of the problem is, damn it, I really went on a tangent there. The window hasn't closed. More communication between the different groups is needed. But I think for black women, they have to accept, like, they have to unlearn a lot of this. That's just evil white racist stuff. Because I think I made this point before. Maybe I should do a video on this. Fine. Aaron Clarey, he reads letters, and he had some letter from some black guy talking about how his mom asked for money. He was in search, just some like whatever. And I was just thinking, man, black women, you can say, oh, that's racist and this that, but these black men will sit here and go over to some white dude like Aaron Clarey and these big towy guys, and even some white supremacist or whatever type dudes. They have no problem ratting you out in this race and laying the blame at your feet, and then getting a whole nother racial party involved in a one-sided story because we don't share our story, we don't tell our story. And they've had no problem going to tell the whole world how horrible we are, how much they hate us, and blah, blah, blah. But black women, even in I see comments, and a lot of times I don't respond to them because, well, I'm trying to address them in my own videos, my own work, that a lot, even the black women who are more woke in this side of things, they're not really understanding. They still have these knee-jerk reactions. That's racist. Like, I see stuff all the time, and I think, man, I would love for y'all to come over here, but you have to take that trigger off as a black woman. Like, and some of these things that, like, I did a video about this, about a comment that someone left an old Kendall Brooklyn Blue video saying, basically, what a lot of black people think is racism is just white people being aware and not being cool with some of the shit that we do. So when you start to understand that too, you realize, okay, but it's going to take that. It's going to take black women coming into these types of circles of conversations about race, about IQ, about our case selection, and, listening and approaching it. Anyway, I think I beat that into the ground. So no, the window hasn't closed. I think the window is barely open, and I think just hopefully a channel like mine and the videos I do here, and like one of the goals I mentioned before previously was that one of the things I want to do is like have people on and maybe have like someone that's more dissident alt-right come on, and have someone like some of the great commenters and even creators I see of black women here come on, and we just sit and talk about stuff like, bringing people together, man, from those two camps would be great because there's a lot of good things that could come out of it for both parties. But I'll just leave that there. I just think the window hasn't closed because it's not really open yet. And, it'd be nice to see some more distant alt-right guys. Okay, the blacks aren't just black men. I'm going to have to unlearn some of this feminism, welfare, kind of conservatism, white nationalism 1.0 talking points, and I'm gonna have to engage black women because black people are black men and they're also black women, and a lot of the conversation has just been a few base black guys in Trump hats that they run into, or just a few black guys who do kind of on the periphery and the edges that they see, come run their mouths about single moms and hair weaves. Like, if the window will stay closed if dissident alt-right white men can't have unlearn some of the things that they've learned, or just hear a different perspective, and they have to see black women as black women, not just this de facto blacks equals black men and black women just being like there. So let's move on to the last question, comment that came from God's Own Prototype. Good day, Anon Wyatt. This is the first piece of your content I've seen. I liked your term neoconservative, especially given that neoconservative was defined by its progenitors as a liberal who's been mugged by reality, and in this case, it would be the JQ. Good points about the bite the hand that feeds weakness, a white-black identitarian alliance strategy. You're right that it would work as a broad strategy from the current reality. However, it might work for one man, like Patrick Little, at least for a time. I take his reparations plan as wanting to expose the JQ white distinction and disparity regarding slavery as a strategic move to help break the white guilt power, and the payment itself would be an essential part, as a free pass wouldn't work, and atonement that came at a cost would have greater impact. On the miscegenation issue, I'd only add here that the marrying a black woman and a white man have the lowest divorce rates. Like black conservatives, black contrarians are often finding personal benefit by that path. It seems to be as much a temperament thing as a conscious strategy, and does rely somewhat on white fetishism of / pandering to black people. Yeah, so neoconservative. Yeah, I mean, I know I saw that someone else already said that, and I just kind of stole it. But yeah, it is an apt term to use. I'd agree. Yeah. So okay. So the midsection of this question. Now I've kind of like gone. It's funnily enough, I did a video on Aryan Skynet, and there was this huge discussion in the comment section about the whole Patrick Little thing and all that stuff. The funny thing is, yeah, I kind of see what he means about exposing it's kind of more just maybe a radical plan to expose the kind of white Jew distinction and separation. I get that. That's kind of cool. And yeah, for what purpose did it serve? I mean, the funny thing is, like, because I think this came up in the Skynet comments, like, you actually have to like engage with these non-white people. So sometimes it'd have been nice if, well, maybe he found some black group to kind of like work with him or something, or talk to him. I just don't ever see this really ever materializing on paper. Like even now, like, cause I was thinking like, where are like, I don't even, if there's so many, well, nobody's ever saying so many, but you would think that this was some type of really viable thing. You'd have a few, at least maybe 2 or 3 black people who at least would openly say that they were black, and they float around the alt-right and listen to like Luke Ford or Mark Collett, or I'm trying to think of any of this YouTube alt-righty scene. Like if these black men, because that's particularly what most of the people in this group think, are going to just be out here ready to like, power fist unite with them against the Jews, you would think that, like, I mean, there's got to be some lurkers for sure. But for me personally, like, I just find it odd that I'm like the only person. Like, granted, there's going to be like 1,000 black people. It just seems like for this to even be viable, like, where are these black voices? Like, that's something I didn't get into the Hotep Jesus thing. Like, it's a good point to make to some of these guys. Like, where are all these non-white people who you think they're going to help you fight against the Jews? Like, some people should have already been reaching out to you guys by now. I don't know. I kind of want to tangent there. Yeah, it was a kind of more of it seemed more of like a campaign thing thrown out for him to like shock and get whites on board versus actually. I'm being that to the ground because I don't really know what to say now that on reflection, he lost. Yeah. So let's just stop that because I don't really know what to say now. Like especially different now because he ran and he got like what 1, 2, maybe 5% of the vote, something like that. I mean, and then again, I guess to even take it back to the original video that these comments are on, that Paul Nealon, like it's so weird to get the red pill in the JQ, like. And like I even having known like there were some of these things for at least innately for some time, it is still like a whoa, like when you get red pill and this stuff. Like I remember getting red pill in the JQ, so it's like whoa. And I said I have an idea. I want to see if someone would be interested in hosting a really cool stream. I think I'm going to float this idea to Luke or some of the other people in that sphere. It'd be great to have a big black question. BQ. I keep want to say DQ, like Dairy Queen. BQ, JQ, the Dairy Queen question. That's the really important question. I think blizzards are kind of gross. It's just like a bunch of candy bar mix and that nasty soft serve. Cold Stone Creamery is where it's at. So we solved the DQ question, but it'd be nice to solve the BQ JQ with some folks. Um, yeah, so I'll leave that there. So last part on the miscegenation issue. Yeah, I've seen. I don't know if it was Pew or whoever. I've seen that float around a lot because I thought someone made this comment on Amarin. It was posted in an article on Amarin once, and I was in the comment section, and someone was like, "Whoa!" to that. And I was like, "Well, yeah, like a big part of it too is, amongst a lot of other factors, is that there hasn't been this fake agenda pushed for the past 50 years of shoving Chad and Keisha together." I try to think about this. Let's say we go back to late 50s, 60s, and the Jews, start, the certain segments of Jews start pushing some of these social, cultural, racial factors. Now I have this theory. Now, if you look at Lorraine Hansberry, the black woman playwright who wrote Raisin in the Sun, Alice Walker, who wrote, she was kind of like a disciple, I don't say disciple, big fan, very much influenced by the black woman author Zora Neale Hurston. She married. Now they both married Jewish men. So there you go. Now Quincy Jones and Peggy Lipton. Peggy Lipton, she was Norma on Twin Peaks. Now it seems by this theory they were going to push the blacks and the whites, or blacks and Jews masquerading as whites, race mixing agenda. Now, it worked to a certain degree with some black women, but the majority of black women are so race loyal to black men for the reasons that we talk about in a lot of these black women circles now. We understand, kind of like I think Kendall did a video once, like the phallus and the umbilical cord. It's like this tie to black men that black women have that's so deep and distinct. So the gears really switch on to black men and white women being pushed together. So, but what if it had then never came about? And let's say black women really started to take to it in sizable numbers. Like instead of like the kind of we'll be thinking of Becky, and well, then I wonder then what you see what it would have looked like, because we get that's way too esoteric of a conversation to go into. But so just going back to the original question, there's not been this social agenda and a whole bunch of other social factors and happenings that are only possible within the past, couple of decades. When you think of rap and hip hop culture and the popularization of that musical genre and what that meant to elevate the black male image, and the cool of James Dean, the rebel white guy with the motorcycle. You see, I've talked about this a few times. I think there's this weird cultural shift where you go from the kind of like rock and roll white man, Mick Jagger, kind of like swagger, sexy white man that kind of lasts all the way from the beginning of rock and roll up until about the 80s, and then you switch into this kind of like grunge, like the kind of post-punk indie, the beginning of that kind of scene kind of makes white men kind of start making music that get more internal into themselves. Hell, we even have a genre called shoegaze. Um, so those things make it all possible too. But yeah, so the lower divorce rates it's probably because like there's not been this cultural push, and then because of other certain racial factors, particularly black women and their whole race loyalty, that's usually in the black race pushed on black women and girls. There's this idea that's been kind of discussed where black women's job is to teach black girls to be the designated survivor of the race, to stay behind, to fix a man, build a man, get any kind of black man you can get, if you could get one, or get enough of one so you can, become pregnant and make another black male and keep birthing them. So, so there's not, so the agenda for black women is usually to to kind of buck that trend and step out race and interracially date, or especially when it comes to white men, it's such a there's a lot of there can be a lot of nervousness depending on the black woman and where she's from. And then ultimately for white men, I mean, it's weird. They've had their taste of every woman on the planet, from white women, Asian women, Hispanic women in larger numbers. And because and then the American, when you say ask this question in America, that into itself is a whole racial question discussion for us as a people, as two racial groups of people here because of our unique history with race. But anyway, um, yeah, black contrarians often find a personal benefit by that path. Yeah, and it's so strange because I always have to ask, well, it's funnier now when we look at the black man, black woman question, because one thing that comes up quite a bit is how they don't, there's this black, like the Donald Glover thing was really recent example of this, where it's, oh, I was a black nerd and nobody wanted to date me, but it's so funny, a lot of black women, like myself, like I liked the Chili Peppers. I was like a straight A student and I love books and I still love books and reading, and I was treated that way too. So the black contrarian, especially as a black man, it really starts. It's still what seems to have happened is it's almost it's like I can't decide. It's a very chicken or egg discussion. Has that always been a reason for them to date white women to date out because they're contrarians, or do they become contrarians who want to date them? I'm already saying that backwards. It's more. It seems was more relief for them, but it hasn't really been for black women who, even when they are kind of contrarians or different, like their race loyalty to a large degree keeps them sticking with the race, where more and more black men are just like, deuces, you know, mm, he's so sexy. Oh my God, sorry. I just got a DM from a sexy, sexy man. Damn. I'm like, we're also recording, y'all. He's so Aryan and fine. I was like, ooh. Anyway, I ain't gonna tell you who I'm talking to. I'll just tell you he fine, he Aryan, baby. Maybe I'll close this with some salt and pepper. What a man, what a man, what a man. Okay. I'm being obnoxious. Ooh. I gotta go send a picture back. Not a nudie, but actually I was gonna send this person a picture because they have this thing. I can't say anymore without. I can't say anymore. I need to send this person a picture back. Not a naughty picture. I don't do that. I don't do that junk. No, but just like a fun picture because I have this cool book that I want to show this person that I have. So anyway, let me wrap this up here because I would like to come back with some more content tonight. And I'm sorry about 11 o'clock on my end. So let me get moving in that direction so I can at least make one more video. Thank you for all the people who recently subscribed. It was so crazy, like right around that whole Hotep Jesus, Luke Ford period in that week. There's so many channel grew, but then, like I said repeatedly, I was going out of the country and I just knew I was going to be derailed from really like jumping in it. But more to come. I'm actually going to reach out to some people and see if they want to come on, if they want to start streaming together. And I have a really cool idea for a new channel or for a stream I want to do with some Jews. And I won't spoil it here. Maybe I'll just make a quick little separate video just about that. Anyway, those are the responses to some questions. I got some really great comments here from this Lori L. I might just come back on. Maybe I should do once a week a comment wrap up. But let me stop brainstorming at the end of the video. Let me let that go. Upload this for you lovely people out there. Again, thank you so much for everything, for subscribing. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. More amazing content to come. And I'll talk to y'all